Hey guys, my name is Danny and I'm your life and relationship coach. And let's talk about boundaries in a marriage. The term boundaries sometimes I think has a negative connotation. People think a boundary is a limitation, a wall, something that may not necessarily have a positive result. But the reality of the situation is boundaries are healthy and you actually need boundaries in your relationship, in your marriage, in order to maintain your own self identity, to be able to maintain your independence. If you do not have any boundaries, then it's very possible that you will be stepped all over or you will make sacrifices or compromises that you usually would not because you lack the ability to set boundaries. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that your spouse or your partner will take advantage of this, but in my one-on-one coaching sessions, there have been several times where I work with people where they feel like they could have set stronger boundaries. So that's why I wanted to speak about it, because I think it is incredibly important and I think it is healthy and I think it is something that really helps to create rules and a form of stability and a stronger foundation and consistency within a relationship. So, what are some of the common boundaries, right? So the ones that I hear most often, I'll list them for you. So the first one is money, finances, right? And one of the boundaries that a lot of people set is who will be the person managing the money and what is the questions that can be asked and all of those types of things. For me, the biggest thing in regards to finance is that it should be a two-way street, right? So both individuals should be able to make decisions in regards to the finances. But at the end of the day, there is always one person in the relationship, usually, who is better at managing the finances than the other person. So instead of getting into arguments about it, just make the decision as to who is going to be the individual who is going to be managing the money. But at the same time, make sure you are setting a boundary. So if you feel like your partner is asking you too many questions about your spending, what you're spending your money on, do we really need to buy that? Do we really need to get that, I don't know, electric toothbrush or whatever the case may be? Make sure that you are setting boundaries. If you are not excessively spending, if you are not spending the money so that it is a detriment to your finances, your partner has to realize and has to know that it's not okay for them to be questioning you all the time, right? The second boundary is personal privacy. So in a relationship, obviously it is a team. You guys are forming a team. You're connecting, you're bonding, you're becoming, as some would call, one unit. You're two individuals forming a life together. And the reality of the situation is that you still need to be able to feel like you have a sense of independence and you have your privacy and you're able to maintain your self-identity. So setting boundaries with your partner. So making sure that they aren't checking your phone, they aren't asking you questions about who's texting you, who you're calling, and all of those types of things. Now, that is in a relationship that is built on trust and loyalty, and you don't necessarily feel like you have to be poking and prying and trying to find out what is going on. That is what you would consider a healthy relationship. But at the end of the day, even in healthy relationships, you still have to be able to set a boundary and say, hey, look, one of the biggest things for me is just please don't be checking my phone all the time. Because what that can also do is that can make you feel like your partner does not trust you. And then therefore we start to see a break in that trust. And then you'll see, arguments start to ensue and you'll have to try to deal with those and they may not be resolved. And then it just becomes a bigger thing than it needs to. So setting a boundary when it comes to your own personal privacy is huge. The third most common one that I see is just relationship rules, right? And this is around particular values in a relationship. So trust, loyalty, communication, just the foundational elements of a relationship, and setting a boundary within each one of those categories, each one of those topics. So when it comes to trust, again, this kind of goes back to the whole privacy thing. So in order for me to trust you, please trust me. Don't go through my phone. That's a boundary. In regards to communication, if I am feeling a particular way, I would like the ability to express it to you. However, when you get defensive with me, I will walk away from the conversation because I do not want it to escalate. That is also a boundary. You are letting your partner know that you will walk away from a conversation if it begins to get escalated. That way, your partner is aware of their actions and how they are responding to you. So it's really about going down the list and picking each one of these categories, these pillars, these foundational elements of a relationship, and setting boundaries within each one. Now, you may not necessarily have to set a boundary within each one of these topics or these categories, but at the end of the day, it's just good practice. It's a good way to start establishing, like I said, these boundaries. And it's also a good way to just have conversations and communicate with your partner what your needs are and what your expectations are and what your boundaries are. The fourth most common boundary that I also see in a relationship is about the in-laws. So oftentimes, people in a marriage will get into arguments about their in-laws, right? So maybe the husband doesn't get along with his mother-in-law, maybe the wife doesn't get along with her father-in-law, whatever the case may be. You want to make sure that you are setting boundaries in regards to the in-laws. So how many times a year will they be able to come to the house? How long will they stay there? Now, everybody's different, right? So it also depends on culture. It depends on how you grew up. Maybe your parents live with you. Whatever the case may be, just making sure that you and your partner are on the same page when it comes to the dynamics of the in-laws. That's really the most important part. I don't want to sit here and tell you specifically how you should, break down how many times a year your in-laws are going to be coming, or how often they can visit, or how long they can visit for. Whatever the case may be, it's specific to your circumstances, specific to your situation. Just make sure that you are setting those boundaries with your partner if it is something that you feel is necessary. So, how do we establish these boundaries? So, I discussed a little bit in regards to each one of the different, topics, or the ones that I see the most often. But the reality is, the way that you can start to set a boundary is through communication. Communication is the beginning of this. So sitting down and having these conversations with your partner, expressing to them your needs and what your expectations are and what you feel a realistic boundary would be. And in order to do that, my recommendation to you is to sit down and prep the conversation. Write down some of the things that you feel you need in regards to the dynamics of the relationship and what you want to and how you want to establish a boundary, and share that with your partner, and understand that your partner may not necessarily agree with you, but you have to also be willing to compromise with them. Sometimes we have a tendency of setting unrealistic expectations or unrealistic boundaries, which is why we are having this open dialogue with our partner. We are conversing with our partner and saying, hey, this is how I feel. This is what I need. What do you think? And be open and receptive to what your partner has to say. The second way of establishing a boundary is discussing the repercussions. So I will give you an example. If you are having a conversation with your partner or your spouse and you are talking about how you guys navigate an argument, right? If you are in the middle of a conversation, an argument with your partner, and your partner has a tendency of getting heated, getting angry, they raise their voice, their tone changes, and usually you just kind of sat there and took it. Setting a boundary would be expressing to your partner, look, when we are having these arguments, I want us to be able to be productive. I want us to be able to try to resolve the issue. But if you start to raise your voice, I'm going to walk away from the conversation. I'm going to walk away for 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to allow us to cool off, and then I will come back. That is setting a boundary. That is letting your partner know that their actions have a repercussion. And it's not necessarily a punishment, because at the end of the day, it's actually something very productive that you were doing and should have much more of a positive result in the end. But you're just letting your partner know ahead of time that this is how you plan on managing that conversation, navigating that argument, moving forward. The final way of being able to practically apply a boundary is accountability. You too also have to take accountability for your actions. So if you are setting a boundary for your partner, but then you are stepping over that boundary yourself, that's not really congruent. You're not really staying consistent with your own personal message, your own personal boundary that you are setting for your partner. And if you're not even respecting that boundary, then why should your partner? And vice versa. If you are setting boundaries for your partner and your partner has set boundaries for you and you overstep your partner's boundaries, then where's the expectation for your partner to respect your boundaries as well? So again, it's really also about taking accountability for yourself and taking accountability for your own actions when it comes to setting boundaries. If you guys liked or related to this video, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below. I love having open dialogue with people. So if there's something that you feel that I missed or something that you really enjoyed about the video, please make sure you leave your comments in the comment box down below as well. If you just want to know more, if you want to dive in a little bit deeper, you can visit us at happilycommitted.com, where we have a multitude of different articles and blogs and videos that you can utilize. If you want to book a one-on-one coaching session with any of the amazing coaches that we have on the team or myself, you can book directly through the website at happilycommitted.com. Again, my name is Danny and I'm your life and relationship coach. Hope you guys are staying happy and healthy, and I'll see you guys soon.